So this week on Safe, Efficient, Profitable, we're talking about change. We've had so much change happen with turnover and shifts and changes of product. So how do we adapt in the safety office and as safety managers and managers in general to all of the change that's going around us? And how do we keep that continuous improvement going? So let's go. Welcome back, everybody. So my name's Jen, and I am one of the owners of Allen Safety. And today, like we said, we're talking about change. So we have had so much change. This has been on my heart to talk about because I just feel like we've had an incredible amount of change with the turnover. I'm having my plants have changes in how they're doing their shifts for production and maintenance. They're having changes in their hours, changes in the days in a row they're working. We're having entire plants change over to running different products that they never ran before. So there's just change all around us. And how do we adapt to that from the safety office? Because I've noticed that it's interesting that all this change going on around us, but sometimes there becomes this conflicting thing of we want continuous improvement, but we don't want to change anything. Or we want continuous improvement and we're willing to make changes, but the changes we're making create an increased volatility and risk. We've got some tenured managers that have left us, and they left a legacy. And it's hard to fight that legacy sometimes when you're new in that role and you keep having to hear how great the person is that was there before you and how, man, we just miss them and they were so incredible and they wouldn't have ever done it this way. And so you want to go in and you really want to make a name for yourself. And continuous improvement and showing that you can do it better, faster, cheaper is one of the ways that folks go about making that happen. And I get that. And so sometimes there becomes this concept of continuous improvement by way of cutting resources. And I want to be really, really clear because I know that this can be controversial. Don't come for me and hang with me. And I'm going to ask you to have an open mind on this one. So I want to be clear. We believe in reset points. We believe in reevaluation. We do it 2 times a year where we look at everything going on in the business, everything we're spending money on, all of our different systems. Do they make sense? Are they adding value? Is it a good fit? Should we be doing that? Is it meeting our expectations in terms of what we thought we were going to get for the time and financial investment? So we genuinely believe in just doing a reevaluation, but we want to make sure that we do it carefully, right? We want to make sure that when we begin as an organization to ask questions in regards to what we can cut, that we have all the information. And we want to be very intentional about understanding what we're cutting, what value did it bring, what was it supposed to bring? And how does that relate to the cost of the item? Is the item that we're looking at cutting, is it a good fit to cut it? Is it not meeting expectations? Or is it not doing what we need? Is it creating more drama? Is it creating more work? It's just, this wasn't what we thought. We were kind of sold something and it turns out it wasn't really for our business. It wasn't really for our industry. It wasn't what we needed. And then if that's the case, then all right, let's cut it. Let's do it. But we want to make sure before we take that action that we're asking the right questions to the right people. And what I mean by that is sometimes who we ask, they weren't around when the original decision to implement that process, that system, that specific PPE style, whatever that thing is that you're looking at cutting or making a reduction on. That individual you're asking wasn't around. And so they don't know why we do what we do, and they're not sure, and they don't have all of the answers on that. And so we really want to make sure that we gather all that information and we have as much of it as we can before we make those decisions. So why is this permit or this template or this document or this process that we do or this order that we do it? Why is it this way? Why do we do the training this way? Maybe the person that we're asking, do we really need to do all this for training? Do we really need to do all of this for authorized electrical, or do we not? Well, if that person doesn't attend training, I would question whether that would be the correct person to ask that to. Should that person be deciding who is giving the training, what the qualifications are for who's giving the training, and what is included in that training? If they're just managing the program, they're not a content expert for that location on that subject. Should they be doing it, or should the stakeholders be doing it? We want to make sure that we're clear on what our goals are before we start cutting things. So how's that going to affect our goal? Is it going to reduce risk, increase risk? Is it going to help us meet our goal? Is it going to derail us from meeting our goal? What is the impact? The next thing that I would ask is it adding other risks that we hadn't considered? that are now getting introduced because of this different methodology or different style or whatever that looks like, this different concept that we're doing, this different system that we're doing. What else is impacted? Because sometimes we cut things and we realize, oh, wow, there's a ripple effect here. And that impacted so many more things than I thought it was going to. And so we want to really analyze and evaluate what are the far-reaching effects, or are there any, but could there potentially be any far-reaching effects on other areas or other disciplines, subjects, whatever that could, is what else is affected here? And then if I find by cutting this item, I'm also removing some buffers, then what systems am I replacing them with? So am I putting an equal or improved safety net or safety buffer in place for the one that I'm taking away? If I'm cutting something, is what I'm putting in place going to be better, or is it going to help me avoid risk totally? Is it increasing risk, or is it going to help mitigate it further? If I'm taking one safety buffer out, that I'd like to, in a perfect world, replace it with one of equal or better functionality in driving down that risk. Lastly, when we look at cutting things, what are our backup plans if that thing that we decided to cut fails? Consider, just very quickly, the mode that we all go into when we're in emergency mode, when we're having downtime, when we're losing money every minute that we're down. The budget sort of kind of goes out the window. It's like all hands on deck. I don't care what it costs. We got to get back up and running. We got to fix this problem. We got to stop this emergency. And so if we consider what that looks like, and then for the subject matter that we're looking at cutting, if something went sideways or bad, what are the steps that we would put in place to prevent reoccurrence? So we have injuries, maybe downtime, maybe management time to prevent reoccurrence. We've got the cost of maybe some maintenance, repair work, fabrication work, those maintenance costs, maybe a citation. And consider if we incurred all those costs and we did everything that we needed to do to prevent that from ever happening again. What would it look like if we did all that on the front end on our timeline, instead of having to do it in chaos mode all at one time, spend whatever, and in disorganized fashion because we got to get it done now? How would we manage that if we wanted to just prevent initial occurrence completely on the front end? And how would we manage that differently? And does that provide benefit? So just to wrap up, consider really quickly, before you cut something, what's the value it's providing? Big picture value, not just financial one item, but big picture, management costs, management time, just what else is it affecting, all of those things. And then consider all the buffers that it may have provided, and then consider if it didn't provide any at all. Maybe it was terrible, and that's fine too. And then what systems are we putting in place if it did have buffers that came with it to replace whatever things that we're removing? So if the thing I'm cutting takes buffers out of place, what systems am I adding to and implementing to replace those buffers so I don't have increased risk? Evaluate if you come out ahead. And then if yes, let's go. Let's do it. I'm all for it. I love to run lean. Anybody can ask Joe, all right, we love running very, very lean. But we do have some non-negotiables. And the biggest thing here is that you want to identify what are your non-negotiables. And you'll find that you have some. And the biggest thing that we want to make sure is that we avoid that cycle of now I know why they did that, and now we're back to square one, and we had all this drama, this chaos, and we actually ended up spending more money because we had this big thing that happened, and now we had to fix it. And so that's the biggest thing, is that we want to avoid, now I know why they always did it that way. Now I know why the permit was that way, whatever was that way, why we picked those boots for the PPE. We want to never get into that. So hopefully this helps you create your pro-con list of what can we afford to cut, what are our non-negotiables, and then also just help you dive in a little bit deeper to help identify if there's some things that you've got questions on, and really just challenging things. You'll end up still running better. So you may not cut the items that you're challenging, but at least it'll also help everybody understand, well, here's why we do it that way. And that's always a benefit too. More education and understanding of why we do things the way we do is always a positive. And if you're looking for a budget option, you're like, you know what, we've got to train people this year. We don't have it in the budget. AllenSafetyCoaching.com. It's a great way to train your supervisors. It's a great way to train a safety manager that's new, that you're trying to onboard, that isn't super familiar with your location, the plant, the business. If you've got any questions, any of our LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, any of that good stuff, we're on it all. So just reach out, let us know, send us a direct message, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Safe, Efficient, Profitable, a worker safety podcast. If you're looking for more in-depth discussions or step-by-step solutions on all of the different safety and regulatory topics, please visit us at www.allensafetycoaching.com for web-based virtual coaching and training, or at www.allen-safety.com to book our team for on-site services, training sessions, to order merchandise, to learn more about our team and what services we provide in the field, or just simply to request a topic for us to cover on our next podcast. If you found today's podcast helpful and would like to support our podcast further, please help us by subscribing, liking, and sharing this podcast with anyone that could benefit from the information we cover here, as that helps us to continue to put out this free content. Thank you so much for your support.